If you're new to OneNote Class Notebook, Class Notebook is a tool created by Microsoft that allows teachers to create a single digital notebook for all of the students in their class. What's nice about Class Notebook is, as a teacher, you'll be able to view your student work at any time on virtually any device that has internet access. So right now you are looking at the welcome page of a class notebook, and in this video we're going to walk through the steps of creating your first notebook. To get started creating your first notebook, the first thing you're going to do is log into your Office 365 account. After you log in and land on your landing page, you'll notice all of the different icons that are available for you to choose from. There are going to be a couple of ones that may confuse you because you're going to see something that says OneNote and you're also going to see one that says Class Notebook. Just to quickly differentiate, OneNote is a generic single notebook for one user. So for instance, if you wanted to have your own digital binder where you could put all of your notes or lesson plans in, this is something that you would utilize just for yourself. Whereas a class notebook is a OneNote notebook that allows you to add students to the notebook, to add co-teachers to the notebook, and this is the tool that we're going to be using for this class. So you're going to look for the icon that says Class Notebook and you're going to click on it. And this app is going to walk you through just a few steps to set up your first notebook. So you can see here we have 4 different options: create a class notebook, add or remove students, add or remove teachers, or manage notebooks. We'll get to these other 3 later, but to begin we're going to click on create a class notebook. The first thing you need to do for your class notebook is name this notebook. Now, as an elementary teacher, you may just want to have this as your name and the school year. You do want to be a little bit specific because students will be using this over the course of many years. If you plan to use this notebook at the elementary level for just maybe one subject area, you could be a little more specific and put your name and the subject area that this notebook is going to cover. You have to think about how you're going to be utilizing this tool in your classroom. So for example, we'll just call this Ms. Robinson 2019-2020, and we click Next. This second page here is just giving you a little overview of what's going to be included in the class notebook. So there are 3 main areas of a class notebook. There is a collaboration space, and you'll see over here, this is the area where both teachers and students can edit the content, meaning students and teachers can input pages, they can write on the pages in the collaboration space, they can add and delete things as well. It's a nice area where you can do group work for students if they're doing a research project and they need an area where they can kind of combine their resources, you can do that. However, it was also an area where students can get into each other's work if they're not careful. So in another video, we'll go over how to kind of lock that down and put a little more security on the collaboration space. The content library is going to be the bread and butter of where your content is going to go. Content library you can think of as a digital file cabinet. So anything that you put in the content library, the students have access to, but they can't make any changes to it. It is read only to them, where you can see over here it says student can view the content only. They can copy a page that you put in the content library over to their own notebook, but they will not be able to delete or make any changes. You can think of it sort of as student share. If you have used student share in the past, you have put documents in there or templates in there that you want the students to have access to, but they can't make changes to the original. And then the third section is the student notebook. So when you create your notebook, each one of your own students is going to have their own section of the notebook that only they can see. Their classmates can't see each other's notebooks. However, you will be able to see all the content of all the students in your notebook. So teachers can edit the content in all of the student notebooks. Students can edit their own content in their notebook, but they will not be able to see or view anybody else in the class. So there's nothing we need to do here. We're just going to click Next. Now, step 3 is, you got to watch this one because very often we get confused between these two if we're not careful. If you have a co-teacher, an inclusion teacher that you want to give access to this notebook as well because they might have to make modifications for students, you can add a co-teacher here. It is not required if you do not have that. So I'm just going to skip this one for now, and you can always add later if you need. And now here comes the part where you're going to start adding the students to your class. So you're going to go down your class list and you're going to start adding the students by last name. After you type in about 4 or 5 characters of somebody's last name, it'll start to populate with anybody that is in our Office 365 database. So you're going to look for the person that you want to add, and then you're going to click on their name. Once you click on the person's name, it will show up now in the box, and you can now continually add the rest of your students. Then again, after a few characters, it should start to populate, and you just click on the name. And you're going to repeat this process for all of the students in your class. Once you're done, you're going to click Next. Now, this is an area you're going to have to really think about. What this Section 5 is referring to is, what do you want the students to have in their notebook? What sections do you want them to have in their notebook? So think of a 3-ring binder that a student has at the beginning of the year. How do you want them to organize this 3-ring binder? What sections should they have? Now, if you are using this notebook as a general notebook for a variety of subjects like I didn't specify that this notebook was for social studies or for science, you may want to name your sections the different subject areas that you're going to be using this for. These generic sections here do not need to be used. This is just automatically created by the system. If you don't want to use any of these, you can X them out and then you can add your own section. So for example, if I was going to be using this for a variety of subject areas, I could call this by the different areas that I'm going to be using this for. And maybe I'm just using it for social studies and English, and that's it. You can always distribute new sections later on in the school year if you decide, you know what, I want to have a research project section for all of my students so that they have an area in their notebook that they're all going to do their research in. So this is not set in stone. However, you want to give them, a couple of subjects in the beginning to start out with. If you are going to specify that this notebook is only going to be for social studies, and that's what you named it as, you may want to get rid of these and then do it by perhaps the unit that you're going to be covering in social studies. So for instance, if we do geography and then we add another section, New York, and any other sections that you might be covering in your class. So you have to think about how you want to organize your student notebooks. So since this is a general one, I'm just going to delete this one and go back to what I had before. Just type in English and social studies. Be careful with spelling. You can make changes later, but it's a little bit trickier to do that. And then when I'm satisfied with this, I'm going to click Next. Now, step 6 is showing me a preview of what this is going to look like. Right now, I am viewing this as a teacher. So this is from the teacher perspective. I'm going to see the collaboration space, the content library, and then I will see all of my students. If I want to see what it's going to look like from a student perspective, I can click on Student Notebook, and the students will also see collaboration space, content library, which will be read-only to them, and then the student will then see only their name and any sections you created for them in their notebook. If you are satisfied with all of the steps and the way you set it up, we can go down and click Create. If you need to go back to any step because you needed to make a change to something, do not hit back on your browser. That usually will time this out and you'll have to redo the notebook all over again and add your students all over again. Use the arrow up here that's within the web page itself if you need to navigate back. So I'm satisfied with this. I'm going to click Create, and it just takes usually a minute or so to set up your notebook, and then we'll get a message indicating that the notebook has been created. So now our notebook is ready. You can see here that it finalized and created the notebook. Now we want to open it because we want to start working on it. So you're going to see 2 different options here as to how you're going to open up this notebook. We're not going to use the online version of the notebook. While you can use it, it doesn't have all of the features in the full desktop version of OneNote. So we're going to click on Open in OneNote. And it may ask you, if you have never opened up OneNote before, what version of OneNote do you want to open? Now, I have opened this many notebooks already in OneNote 2016 before. If you get a message that says Open in OneNote versus OneNote 2016, make sure you are choosing the one that says Open in OneNote 2016. If it just says OneNote, that is the app. And while you can use the app, This tutorial is going to cover using this particular class notebook using OneNote 2016. So I'm going to click Open in OneNote 2016. You're going to get a security notice. You're just going to click yes. We're going to continue downloading this notebook. So basically what is happening is the notebook that you created in Office 365 using that class notebook app in the cloud, we are now downloading a copy from the cloud to the device you are currently working on. All right, so now we have our notebook, and you can see here our notebook is ready to go. In the next video, I'm going to demonstrate to you some of the layout features and how to start building your content.